Hi, it is my honor and pleasure to join the 31st Congress of Japan Association for Clinical Engineers, JACE, at Kumamoto City. Unfortunately, I cannot join you personally. I wish I could, as I love to visit Japan, but I think that my message today is important enough that even from far away, all the way from Houston, Texas, United States, it is good opportunity to be part of this distinguished program. Today, I was invited by the International Committee to come in and present to you the future vision of global clinical engineers and associations. I would like to thank the organizing committee and the International Committee of JACE, especially Hiroki Igata and Fukura Keiko, for helping me to be part of this program and to focus on the message that I would like to share with you today. I will follow this outline. In order to understand where we go, we must clearly realize where did we come from, so we can understand where we are now and what do we need to do in order to move forward. So I will start my presentation covering the evolution of the clinical engineering field. I will look at the reasons that societies and associations were established. Then we have a better understand why do we need to work on that further. On the challenge of building adequate academic education and training to support the profession of clinical engineering, and how can we progress from a national to international alliances. And finally, I would like to share with you the Global Clinical Engineering Alliance vision for professional success, which we all share as a goal for the future. I will have a summary slide and a reference available for your review. So let's start with a quick look at the evolution of clinical engineering as a field. The early introduction of technological tool was a relationship of physicians, surgeons, and what I would call conventional engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, chemical engineers that happen to be in the same sphere of working environment, and they saw the ability to develop specific instruments that might deliver the easier and more clear presentation of diagnostic or therapeutic processes. The tools were bulky, they required a setup, they require calibration, they require adjustment, and those normally were function of the laboratory engineers and technologists who were happened to be around. There was no specific field associated with those tools. The education was based on conventional engineering disciplines, as I said, and the beginning of realization that there's a new field that crossed between the life sciences and engineering and called biomedical engineering. As more and more technological tools move to the bedside, such as continuous waveform of EKG presentation, such as electroencephalographic printers, such as blood pressure monitors, the laboratory and the engineers were replaced by more dedicated engineers that were practicing at the bedside. So this concept of technology at the bedside and the bedside engineering that came out of it began to be a group of practitioners that has common unique challenges that start looking at new things that are identified as patient safety, preventive maintenance, on-demand repairs, and questioning what is the best practices and what is compliance with the regulation is all about. And by the way, there are also adverse events unintended outcomes that require investigation in order to eliminate and mitigate those from the routine patient care. Today, removing unintended outcome and reaching zero preventable accident is still a prime target that we have not reached, and clinical engineers must be part of this effort. This new knowledge has been shared by these new bedside engineers and caused a new shift in teaching from the individual instrument to system integration, to understanding that standards need to be written and comply with, that disasters need to be prepared for and planned, and that the decision that we are make every day must be on pure engineering principle and therefore have an ethical behavior that must be adopted and taught to clinical engineers. Conferences and publication, mostly at the regional and national level, began to be offered. We still have to struggle to have clinical engineering subject, and it was mostly as a second thought to the conferences, but this was a beginning of common congregation and society building around specific practices. The challenges for building adequate academic preparation and training was there from day one. Those early conferences and training were focused on challenges that technology presented, but mostly reacted as, oh, we had a problem, it is past experience, so let's talk about it. It's not so much preparing for the future. University did make an effort to develop adequate academic preparation, especially for new entrants into the field, but the curriculum varied and was not uniform. And the acceptance of what is the minimum common subject that graduate must master upon graduation was not clear. You can go to two universities in the same city in the biomedical engineering or clinical engineering field and find the graduates to have different emphasis of knowledge and skill. The teaching was more on the technology itself and less about how do you solve life sciences problem and what are the skills that engineers must have in order to visualize that they are facing a problem and understand how to bring the evolution of the technology as a solution to this problem. Training, however, mostly performed and conducted by industry, were highly focused on their own technology. So the GE, the Philips, the Siemens, the Neon Coden of the world were mostly delivering training to clinical engineers and technologists on their own technology, not so much about the skills. The resulting outcome of all that was practitioners possessing highly varied academic professional preparation, but lacking a common body of knowledge, BOK, and body of practice, BOP. And therefore, the recognition was not widespread because there were different parts of the field, not a common field. And this is demonstrated by the International Labor Organization, ILO, in Geneva, that has, for the longest time, refused to accept the biomedical and clinical engineer as terminology being part of the healthcare team players. Only recently, biomedical engineer became recognized as part of the team. Clinical engineers are still waiting to be accepted as recognized. So we are at the point where we think about, so why do we have this progression that we're already seeing from national to international alliances? Well, for one is overall, throughout time, international travel became much more easier and less expensive, of course, excluding the COVID-19 era. The ubiquitous of the internet, the availability of congressional conglomerates expansion across country line, and tied together with humanity expectation for better life quality and for better healthcare, all suggested that this division of countries versus international collaboration is fading away and is being replaced by these global alliances. Therefore, I congratulate the 34th Congress of JACE for bringing this international concept to the agenda and discuss the role and the future dependence on these alliances to bring us forward and continue the progression of the clinical engineering field. You know, every other healthcare profession, from hospital administration to medical subspecialties, cardiology, oncology, surgery, nursery, pediatrician, and anesthesiologist, all have expanded their collaboration from national level to international association crossing the world. And their publication follow through as well. However, the clinical engineering field until 2015 was left behind, perhaps with the exception of the relationship that JACE and AMI has developed over the year. But it is seldom to see an equal partner in a multidisciplinary conferences or alliances being a clinical engineering field. We're mostly there as a second thought, as I said before. And this progression from the national to the international alliances is something that is happening now because of COVID-19, but should be happening because of our desire to have a professional career that is improving patient care outcome and bring satisfaction for everybody that practice it. That's one reason we developed the Global Clinical Engineering Alliance, and I would like to talk about that. Global Clinical Engineering Alliance, you can find it at the website www.globalgcea.org, is a new international collaboration between senior members in the clinical engineering field, including Fukuta Keiko from Japan, Dan Clark from England, Khalil Said from Brazil, Stefano from Italy, and the list goes on and on and on, with South Africa, US, and other members from Canada that are part of this effort. What is the goal? The goal is that we, as clinical engineering, would like to maximize the benefits from healthcare technology for the benefits of patients and their caregivers, while minimizing the technology risk and cost. I give credit to Professor Dan Clark from the UK for coming up with this definition. Once again, it's important to realize maximizing the benefits from healthcare technology for the benefit of patient and their care providers, while minimizing the technology risks and cost. You know, just like JACE back in the 1990, I personally was involved with establishing the American College of Clinical Engineering, with the Healthcare Technology Foundation, with the Center for E-Health and Telemedicine Law, with the International Congress of Clinical Engineering and Health Technology Management that is going to be held in end of September in Orlando, Florida, with the Global Clinical Engineering Summit, with the Global Clinical Engineering Journal that I hope you are considering to submit your next article to that journal, and now with Global Clinical Engineering Alliances, because we want to expedite and continue the evolution of our field with a clear purpose and a bold leadership so that we will inspire all practitioners towards the common goal and building of teams that focus on achieving these goals. You know, COVID 19 sadly and unfortunately taught us that there's no one that is an island. No one is an island. We are connected and we are professionally will achieve better and faster success when we work together. And as I said many times before, we can make it better together. So, in summary, what I would like to share and leave you with is that the successful guide for us to meet the future vision where technology is part of integration of lifelong experiences, not just in the hospital, not just in the clinic, but it's part of our daily routine with smart clothing, with artificial implants, with preventive exercise machine, and the list goes on and on and on. That this Global Clinical Engineering Alliance was created to lay out the plan of how we are having a louder voice when we shout together, and how we have a more clear message when we shout together the same message. So the Global Clinical Engineering Alliance was created to represent the clinical engineering field, its association, and its practitioners, to present a unified path for achieving those desired goals we all shared together, to advocate for the recognition of the unique contribution we all made to the improvement of healthcare programs outcome every day, everywhere on this planet. To create alliances with other healthcare professions that optimally serve patient and system interests. I want to say it again, create alliances with other professions in healthcare, not just with engineers, not just with technologists, not just with the technicians, but with the physicians, with the surgeons, with the administration, with the politician in the Ministry of Health, so we can serve patients and system interest better. And last 2 points, to promote professional education as a lifelong commitment and clear the credentialing standard as a common benchmark for everyone practicing in clinical engineering. Make sure that you are competent clinical engineers, you have a certificate and a diploma to show that. It's not happening now, and it's hurting recognition for our field. We are professional, we should have credentialing program to go along with it. Global Clinical Engineering Alliance is committed to make this happen. And finally, we just incorporated a health technology foundation, a not-for-profit fundraising entity as part of the alliance, to support clinical engineering initiatives such as applied research and cross-discipline data collection that will provide evidence for clinical engineering role as we move into a more brighter and clear and happy career field in the future. I put together a reference for you and I'm sharing it with you as part of this presentation. I would like to tell you, domo arigato gozaimashita. Thank you very much. And I hope that you will find this presentation of interest. Thank you.